Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News, October 28th, 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here tonight with Dr. Claudia Albers, our Planet X physicist. And just about 2 days ago, I received some information from a longtime subscriber who had some video footage that was dated back to January of 2013. And this footage is absolutely incredible. Now, as the story goes, he's a longtime sky watcher and, loves outer space. His name is Justin. And I'd like to thank him very, very much for sending this information over to me. Over the course of the last couple of days, Dr. Albers and I have been poring over the video footage, and I was converting it over to 4K ultra high definition and also taking some still shots. And we're going to show all of this information to you because, once again, this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are large stellar objects lurking out there near the sun. Dr. Albers, the footage that I showed you over the last couple of days, before I go ahead and bring it up, what did you think about it?
Well, I thought it was amazing, and it corroborated what I had thought months ago, that there were objects going in towards the sun, and they were labeling them as known planets when they could not have been known planets at all. They were too large.
Yeah, I noticed that also because I went, I'm just setting up the live chat here real quick, but I went back and I started researching the information that this gentleman sent over. And I'm going to be quite frank with all of you folks. This data is mind-blowing. You know, I've seen a lot over the course of the last several years, thousands of pictures, thousands of videos, and, you know, my own captures, my own evidence, my own observations. And tonight, what we're going to see, it's going to bend your mind a little bit. Now, when I was researching the footage and going back in time to check it out, I found one piece of Secchi footage where on the same date, they have the object labeled as Jupiter, but the object is very, very tiny and it is so far off in the distance. But what you're about to see is a large stellar planetary object, a stellar core, a brown dwarf, a planet X, a Nibiru, whatever you want to call it. You can call it Ralph for all I care. But what you're going to see is you're going to see this object moving in directly towards the sun, and a coronal mass ejection is occurring. And, you know, I've watched this video clip probably 20 or 30 times. I mean, I literally sat up nonstop going over this and researching it very, very carefully. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't believe that there can be an object orbiting our sun. I know there's a lot of people out there, especially probably these amateur astronomers and astrophysicists and scientists who are on the take, you know, for their money that's donated to their universities and their research. Naturally, they're not going to say anything wrong. But this evidence it's pretty mind-bending. But I'm going to go ahead and I created a loop video, and it's ultra high definition. So I converted everything over to 4K to make sure it was as clear as I can get it. So if you give me just 1 second, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And okay, I hope everybody can see that pretty clear.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty mind blowing. Now, folks, this was the HI1 ahead. This is coming from, I believe this is Secchi, correct?
It is Saturn,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the Secchi L2. Now, this was dated back in 2013, and this goes back to the very beginning of the year, January. And you're seeing time lapse video. And what I've done is I've placed a few different colored filters on this to give us a little bit of a different perspective. Well, Dr. Albers, you want to go ahead and you want to narrate a little bit on what you're actually seeing?
Well, what we're seeing is a very large object moving towards the sun. I think this is the one that they labeled as Jupiter, isn't it?
Well, on the older footage that I looked up on Secchi, it doesn't look anything like this. It just looks like the regular Shrem image, and it doesn't even have this coronal mass ejection occurring.
Okay.
I looked at all of the ultraviolet filtered images, and I could see absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
So you see, on the stereo images, the sun is actually quite small. It's about the same size as it would be on the core 2. So that means this object is absolutely huge. And don't forget, the stereo spacecraft is on the same orbit as the Earth. So if, for example, if this was Jupiter, and Jupiter is not in the inner solar system, it's in the outer solar system beyond Earth. So it would be seeing Jupiter on the other side of the solar system if it was seeing Jupiter at all. So Jupiter would be 7 AU away at least, because the orbital distance for Jupiter is about 5 AU. So this object, if it was Jupiter, would be 7 AU away from the spacecraft. That's 7 times further than the Earth's distance to the sun. Jupiter is only 1/10 the size of the sun. So this object is absolutely huge. And it's not just this object. We can see in some of this footage, you can see lots of other material around it. Some of it seems to be moving with it. Some of it seems to be moving independently, but there seems to be a whole cloud of material moving in. You can see here, right behind it. You can see lots and lots of material. And these are the things that I've been saying are there in the stereo images, but it's very difficult to see because they defocus the images so we don't see these details. But here we're starting to see them. There's lots and lots. There's a whole cloud of material coming in behind this object.
Yeah, these still photographs I captured from the video after I turned the video into ultra high definition. I went ahead and played it in slow motion, so I was able to capture some really good still photographs, and we'll get into those still photographs shortly. And folks, I don't know what else to say anymore other than yes, there will always be people out there that are skeptical. There will always be people out there that want to debunk what you are showing people. Now, if you're showing people complete nonsense, then that's understandable. We're not here to deceive anybody. We're simply here to show you what we have found over the years. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people out there that do not want you to know about this. And as Dr. Albers and I have said for the last couple of years, and especially me, let's just face it, the powers that be, they just don't want you believing anything that we say. You know, I posted a video, a short video today, once again, showing how the Earth has tilted, and it's scientific evidence. It's coming directly from the Epic spacecraft that was approximately 1 million miles away from Earth and filming Earth in the L1 position, meaning that this satellite photographing the Earth does not move. And I clearly showed that the Earth has tilted an additional 1,200 miles. And then you wonder why we are having such strange weather anomalies around the world. You wonder why our climate is changing so rapidly. When you're dealing with these types of objects, and again, we don't have ironclad proof of the composition of this object or these objects, but we can definitely theorize that they have very, very strong magnetic fields. Depending on the outreach of this object's magnetic field, there is a very, very high possibility that combined with the sun's magnetic field and this planet X object's magnetic field, do you think that it would create a strain on the Earth? Folks, just take a look at the earthquake data for the last 72 hours. Just before we went on the air, I checked the earthquake data. There were earthquakes scattered all over the globe. About 2 hours ago, a magnitude 6.1 occurred right off of the coast of Central America, right off the coast of El Salvador. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind what is occurring. Dr. Albers, any input?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots going on. There's definitely a lot of effects on our planet, and it's definitely getting worse. The weather, the volcanic eruptions. I keep seeing signs that Yellowstone is not quiet. It's getting more active. I think there is a danger that it will erupt. In fact, I think it's just a question of time. I think it will erupt.
Yeah, I don't trust Yellowstone. I don't trust the data that we get publicly, and that would be catastrophic. But what we're seeing here today, folks, again, I mean, what are the debunkers going to say? Oh, that's Jupiter. Oh, that's Venus. Oh, that's Mercury. Well, first of all, there's no way that could be Mercury because this object is entirely too large.
Yeah, definitely.
Way too large.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot forget the fact that this satellite has the same perspective as Earth. And as far as in these images, like I said, the sun is very small. It's a tiny circle, smaller than that object over there. And so this object has to be, first of all, in the inner solar system. Look how close it passes in front of the camera. You can actually see that it's very close. Indeed, that's why this footage is so good, because you have more of a three-dimensional view of what's going on than you do in normal SETI images. And you can see it's coming very close. So it's obviously in the inner solar system, and it's absolutely huge. I'm sure it's much, much larger than Jupiter.
I was thinking the same thing. As I was watching this video footage last night, I kept saying to myself, wow, when I captured the still images and I started looking at them, I could start to see some of the surface. And, folks, if this was Jupiter, well, we would be able to see the stripes on Jupiter. And through the course of this object incoming towards the sun, at least we would have been able to see the big red Jupiter spot at one point. So, that clarified it for me beyond a shadow of a doubt that this has nothing to do with any of the known planets in our solar system.
Yeah, plus if it was Jupiter, it would mean that Jupiter had moved into the inner solar system, Scott. That's the only way we could see it on this camera. So it couldn't possibly be Jupiter. Jupiter is in the outer reaches of the solar system, 5 AU away from the sun. And the only way you can see it from this perspective, if it is on the other side of the sun, the other side of its orbit from the sun. Otherwise, it would be behind the camera. We'd never see it. So it would have to be 7 AU away. At that distance, Jupiter would be tiny, would look tiny because it's just so far away.
Yeah, in the actual Secchi footage that I looked up for this date, there was only one small portion of it that showed Jupiter way, way off in the distance. And you are correct. It just looked like a very, very tiny dot. You can barely make it out. And naturally, the boys in blue at NASA labeled it Jupiter. And in fact, it was Jupiter. But in this footage, we are not seeing any known planet in our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that much is a fact. So, folks, we can go all the way back to 2013, just like the footage that we're seeing here. Okay. Now, just before we went on the air, I uploaded a video onto the Planet X News YouTube channel. And I was showing all of you, when Dr. Albers refers to the sun going dark, and whenever we refer to it in that way, I wanted to clarify it quite a bit for a lot of you, because maybe some of you don't understand what we mean by the sun going dark. So I went back, and I went all the way back to 2013, and I took still photographs all on the same date, going back to October 28th, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, and today. And I took those still photographs from the Solar Dynamics Observatory because I wanted all of you to see how the corona of the sun has gradually been shrinking to the point of almost non-existence. Okay, so after you watch this live stream, go back to the Planet X News channel and watch that video. It's only a few minutes long, and it gets right to the point. And the root cause for what is occurring on our sun, well, you're looking at it. And once again, I want to try to explain this, okay? Our solar system is just this little tiny little system. And we are traveling through space with our sun. Our sun is traveling through space. If you think that our solar system can never, ever encounter another system, another solar system, well, you need to brush up on your science, and you need to start investigating what we are talking about. If you don't believe us, then do your own homework. The solar system is, again, very tiny compared to other stellar systems that we know about. So consider it like this. Our little solar system traveling down a very busy city street. And yes, naturally, you are going to encounter other things. Today, me and Dr. Albers were having a deep conversation pertaining to this interstellar cloud. And Dr. Albers, do you want to touch on this interstellar cloud?
Yeah, well, I wrote some articles detailing the data, the observational data I came across regarding the interstellar cloud, which our solar system seems to have entered recently. Now, when we say recently in terms of astronomical time, that means a couple of 1,000 years ago. And that correlates with the time that we first started observing comets, which seems to be from 3000 BC, so about 5,000 years ago. And this interstellar cloud is about 30 light years across, so it's 20,000 times larger than the solar system. And it encompasses our solar system on all sides. And the data shows that it warmed up recently, I think between 2005 and 2011. I'm not sure anymore. It's in the articles that I wrote. And the warming up at the edge of the solar system, I knew immediately what it was, because when Planet X matter encounters solar system matter, there is heating and ionization that occurs because of the energy transfer. Because the stellar core matter is low in energy, so it immediately, when it encounters matter that is higher in energy, there's an energy transfer, and there's heating and ionization at that point of contact. So that immediately told me what was going on. And it seems that we may have entered a denser part of the system recently, or the fact that the sun has weakened made the intrusions from the Planet X system easier. So more of them started entering our solar system. It's one of the two. But definitely this interstellar cloud seems to be the Planet X system itself. So it encompasses the whole of our solar system. And that's why I wrote some articles about, can we leave the solar system? Because now we have a whole lot of dead star systems in a huge cloud surrounding our solar system, plus a lot of dust, because they share their outer layers of material. So there's always a lot of debris around them, like we see around this object. And debris of different size, from dust particle size to asteroid size. And lots of particles and objects. And so this is what's in this interstellar cloud: dead stars, dead planets, dead moons, and lots of dust, all energy depleted. When they encounter our solar system matter, there's this energy transfer, and that's why the cloud seems to have warmed up. And so this is where these objects have been coming from. And they come in as comets, it seems, and they've been coming in for 5,000 years. And it's most likely what caused the Great Flood was one of these objects. They've been affecting our planet for a long time. I think most of the disasters that we've encountered over thousands of years have been caused by objects coming from the system.
You know, I was just thinking when you mentioned the comets and the asteroids. You know, folks, I really started paying attention to the meteors and the asteroids back in 2016, because I started seeing this uptick in undetected near Earth objects, NEOs as they call them. And we've had some pretty close calls. If you go back to the Chelyabinsk meteor that exploded over Russia, you know, the boys in blue, with all of their technology, they did not see that meteor coming in until the last minute. And we've had this uptick in meteors. Well, it's going on, you know, 3 straight years now. And I don't think that we are going to see any type of a slowdown. I think these objects are being perturbed. Their orbits are being perturbed. And listen, folks, all it takes is just a little bit of movement, knocking one of these asteroids off of its course, and it could head directly towards Earth, and that would probably be pretty damn catastrophic, depending on the size of it. And going back just a few months ago, there was a meteor impact right off the coast of Greenland by a U.S. Air Force base, and they thought that it was a nuclear attack because nobody saw it coming in. None of the space agencies saw it coming in. So, our Earth is always under threat. And yes, I understand. And I know that, meteors and space debris have been hitting the Earth for, millions and billions of years. But now, folks, we're starting to see this uptick over the last couple of years. And sooner or later, the Earth is going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and we're probably going to have an impact. Hopefully, it will burn up in the atmosphere, and like the Chelyabinsk meteor, it will explode in the atmosphere. But even that created substantial damage to, I believe, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 buildings were damaged with blown out glass, and many people hurt because of the debris flying in the buildings that they were in, and glass and particles and things of that nature. So, we are always under that constant threat. I get a lot of emails, recently, and people are asking me about the weather and the climate change. Folks, climate change is something that, that terminology has been going around for many years. And climate change isn't something that is really that sudden, unless you have a catastrophic event like a massive volcanic blast that pushes massive amounts of volcanic ash into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun, circulating around the Earth, and that would cause a change in temperature and so on and so forth. Okay, but we haven't seen anything like that. But what I'm seeing is the North Pole melting at a very rapid pace. Now we're moving into winter, and I'm going to be monitoring the new ice thickness up there. And there is one climatologist and professor that I follow, and he gives detailed information on what he is finding up there. And because I'm not a climatologist, but I do understand, and I've been researching that for a long time now. And that's a really big deal. Our jet stream has changed so much over the course of the last 2 years. And just over the last year, it has changed substantially. I mean, just look at all of these cyclones that formed in the Pacific Ocean this year. They outnumbered the hurricanes in the Atlantic. And that's kind of odd. We're seeing massive catastrophic damage by what I'm now referring to as superstorms. Just take a look at this tropical cyclone U2 that just blew over the Mariana Islands. Absolutely devastated that island. Okay, 50,000 people live on that island, and it basically flattened everything that wasn't concrete. We saw all of the damage in North and South Carolina with Hurricane Michael. These storm systems are being fed by man. There's no doubt about it. They are making sure that these storms are well fed, meaning with precipitation, with water. But take a look at all of the flooding worldwide. Just a few days ago, Russia had tremendous floods. France, Spain, I think it was a week or two ago, all of Wales was flooded. We're having flooding situations here in the United States. We're having very, very freak occurrences of weather. And like I've told all of you before, if you have not been a weather watcher before, start watching your weather. Okay, we just had a storm roll through here in the Pittsburgh area that just came out of nowhere. High winds, a lot of rain, and it lasted for about an hour. So we're already having landslides here in the Pittsburgh region, southwestern Pennsylvania, more than I've ever seen in my entire life. And this is not just happening here, it is happening around the world. So this is all part of it. If any of you started following me back in 2016 and 2017, you'll remember me warning everyone about the changes in the weather and the changes in the climate. We are going to be going through this, and it's not going to get any better, folks. It is gradually going to get worse, but it seems to be speeding up at a very, very rapid pace. And that, to me, is very worrisome. I worry about that because, these weather anomalies, this is what is killing people. Okay? People are dying during these catastrophic events, and it's very sad. Very sad. But, I wish there was something that I can do about it, but all of this is kind of like in God's hands. If it's your day and your number is up, well, that's it. But if you awaken yourself, open up your mind, don't live inside of that little box and think that everything that mainstream science tells you and has taught you is the truth. And Dr. Albers can attest to that. Dr. Albers?
Oh, yes, of course. I came to the understanding that almost everything I was taught as a physicist is wrong. It's falsified in the face of the observations of the stellar cores in the sun's corona. It just doesn't hold up anymore. And I think we actually have been taught the opposite on purpose through the schooling system and so on, so that people would not accept the truth, even if they were told what was going on in the solar system.
I have to agree with you on that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, I just want to mention the gentleman that sent in this video footage. This is not all of what he sent me. Okay, this is just the beginning, and Justin did a fantastic job of capturing this back in 2013. And I'm very, very thankful that he was able to get this footage over to me, because this is some of the best hardcore evidence that I've seen. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. Justin, if you're out there listening, I'd like to thank you very, very much for sending this in, because now more people will be able to open their eyes, think outside of the box, and literally through their own visual observations, folks, you can actually see what is happening. Now, Justin sent me quite a bit of footage that was attached to this file, and I'm going to be taking that apart piece by piece, and we're going to be doing a few more live streams, and I'm going to show you what he has captured. And he did a fantastic job of documenting this. And this is what I mean, folks. There's nothing wrong with you going outside, taking your cell phone or your video camera or a regular camera and taking some photographs of the sky. You know, I get into arguments with people all the time about the chemtrailing. And we all know that the chemtrailing is absolutely real. But you know what, folks? All of you need to document that. You all need to document it. Take a few photographs, post it on your Facebook page. Let people know what is occurring, because those chemtrails are absolute poison. There's no doubt about it. So as each and every one of us continues to document what we're seeing, that is a huge help. Okay. Now, I had a very interesting email a few days ago from a young lady, and she's been watching Planet X News and Dr. Albers for some time, and she was asking me, what can I do? I talk about this with my friends and my family members and even my coworkers, and they think that I'm nuts. What can I do to make them believe? Well, folks, plain and simple, you're not going to be able to make everyone believe in what you're telling them. They are going to have to learn on their own. If they want to live inside of that tiny box and they don't want to expand their mind and expand their knowledge, then when things really, really do get bad and they're faced with an emergency situation, they're not going to know what to do. And they're going to have hundreds of questions and they're not going to have any answers. Remember what I always say, folks, knowledge is power. It is power. So, yes, we are looking at something that could be very detrimental to our Earth, the human species. Anything could happen. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to have some other planetary object crash into the Earth, because I don't think that would happen. But perturbing asteroids and meteors towards the Earth, that is a very high possibility. What these objects are doing to the sun is already happening. People make fun of Dr. Albers and I when we talk about the sun simulator, but they cannot disprove us. I haven't found one person that can disprove the fact that there is a sun simulator, or several of them, probably 250 to 300 miles above the Earth, probably close to where the space station is. Now you have China developing an artificial moon. I mean, that does sound a little crazy, but it's not nonsense. It is the actual truth. And they want to have this artificial moon in orbit by 2020. I mean, an artificial moon? I know a lot of you have questions already about what you see in the nighttime sky when you look at the moon. I have my own questions, and Dr. Albers has her own questions and her own theories about what we're seeing up there. And now, all of a sudden, the United States is talking about, once again, we want to put a man on the moon. Donald Trump was just talking about it, I think, a week or two ago. So I don't know, that sounds kind of suspicious to me. Something's up there. It may have something to do with the secret space program. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be one of those guinea pig astronauts that gets blasted up there. I'm just not down with it. I want to stay right here on Earth. I like Earth. But I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and I'm going to show you guys some of the still photographs, and we're going to get zoomed in on some of them. So let me go ahead and jump out of here real quick. And we will bring up these screenshots. And real quick, I'm just going to run by these photographs real quick, folks. This is what I was talking about earlier about the video that I made pertaining to the sun. So let me go ahead and just expand this. This is a photograph from the Solar Dynamics Observatory dated October 28th, 2013. Now, folks, look at the vibrant corona. You see how large the corona is? You see all of the activity, all of this activity on the sun. That's the way our sun should look like. Barely any coronal holes. You know, we've been noticing over the last couple of years this large coronal hole that formed on the top of the sun and one on the bottom of the sun. But you could see how faint these coronal holes are. And remember, this is a photograph from 2013. Please take observation of how large and vibrant the corona is. Now, let's move to 2014. Same date, okay? October 28th, today, but this is back in 2014. Take a look at all of the beautiful activity on the sun. Take a look at how far the expansion of the corona is. That's 2014. Let's take a look at 2015. Now we can start to see that the corona is breaking down. The corona is missing up here, and now we're starting to see that formation of those coronal holes at the northern pole of the sun and the southern pole of the sun. That is 2015. Same date, October 28th, but in 2015. Let's take a look at 2016. Oh boy. So in 2016, on the same date, October 28th, take a look at that coronal hole. The whole entire top of the sun, the corona is gone. The whole entire top of the sun is one massive coronal hole, which joined in with a massive coronal hole right down here. If I actually went back and looked at the earthquake data for this time frame back in October of 2016, I bet you we had some pretty good earthquakes and a lot of earthquake activity, because this would be Earth facing, and Earth is in this region where my cursor is. But you see the corona shrinking and starting to disappear. Let's move to 2017. Notice how the corona has completely shrunk. We see the opening again on the top of the sun. No coronal discharge up here, nothing on the bottom whatsoever. And now the corona is about a third of the size. Now, here comes the big shocker. Bingo. This is today, October 28th, 2018. Dr. Albers, you want to elaborate on what you're seeing right there?
Well, basically, you see that the sun has lost most of the corona. There's hardly anything left. And basically, the coronal holes, the sun is turning into one big coronal hole. Why is that? Because it's losing its corona, basically. Why is it losing it? Because the objects are taking it away. They're basically draining it of not only energy, but corona itself. The gaseous atmosphere around the sun is being absorbed by these objects. So that's what's been happening. That's what we see from these images that has been happening. You know, I've written before, and you yourself found that these objects, as they go past the sun, they actually pull corona away from it and take that coronal plasma with them. So they provoke CMEs. They are what causes CMEs. So whenever a CME occurs, the sun is losing coronal plasma to what? To these objects. And this has been going on for a long time. It seems to have, from these images, it suggests that either a larger or stronger set of objects arrived around 2014, 2015, perhaps. But definitely the sun basically has lost its corona.
And that would be a good idea to put a sun simulator up there, wouldn't it?
Well, they have done it. We have the evidence that they have.
I mean, folks, let's be realistic here. You know, the evidence, it's right in front of your face. And these aren't doctored photographs. You can go back and you can go to the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory, learn how to use the website, and start analyzing this information for yourself. That's it. You know, if you guys have questions for me on how to do it, you know, just let me know. Inbox me on, you know, Planet X News on Facebook or my public figure page on Facebook, and I'll help you out. But there is definitely no doubt that the sun has lost a tremendous amount of energy. People say, well, what am I looking at up in the sky? Well, 99.9% of the time, you're looking at a sun simulator. How the sun simulator absolutely operates, well, you know, we can only theorize on that. I believe that they have several devices up there now, you know, new technology that, I mean, if you just take a look at all of the rocket launches over the course of the last 2 years, they tell you, oh, we're just putting up 10 more GPS satellites. Oh, well, what happened to all of the other ones that are orbiting around the Earth? You know, they're doing something up there that we don't know about. Remember, you know, the space agencies are probably about 50, 75, maybe 100 years more advanced than what we actually know about. However, when it comes to the one division of NASA that's still using solid rocket boosters to launch spacecrafts, you know, into outer space, you know, maybe these people aren't in the loop with the special secret space program. So I believe there's a lot of technology out there that some of the people at NASA aren't in on. But again, we could only hypothesize about that. And yeah, but I want to get into some of these pictures here real quick so we can zoom into them a little bit. And this is a good ultra high definition photograph. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit so it doesn't pixelate. But I could already see somewhat of a surface on this object. And, you know, I mean, this would tell me absolutely that, yeah, this isn't Jupiter in any sense of the word. If it was Jupiter, we would be able to see some of the striping on Jupiter. And throughout the footage, we would at least be able to see the big red spot on Jupiter. So here's another close up. I'll try to get all the way in there. And you could see that this object has something going on around it, almost like a large gas cloud or a debris field, something like that around it. You could see it pretty good in this picture. And over here off to the right, that is the sun. And if you remember in the video, as this object was approaching the sun, it was creating a coronal mass ejection. Now, this picture gives a little bit more. You could see the kind of gnarly surface of this object. And once again, you know, my hat's off to Justin for this footage. Man, you did a great job, and you've done a tremendous service to our research into our Planet X objects. So look at this one. This one is a little bit better. I mean, you could actually see, Man, that's just crazy looking. You could see kind of like the little bit of a bumpy surface.
It's definitely not smooth, but that's to be expected because don't forget they shed their layers. So it's either shedding their layers or it's something that it's absorbed from the sun. Either way, it's really not a smooth surface. These objects are very dynamic. They lose their own old material and they gain corona and chromosphere from the sun. So all of this is happening on these surfaces. So there's a lot of activity always on these surfaces and around them.
Yeah, no, in this photograph, folks, what I wanted to try to do is I wanted to try to bring out the gamma in this photograph. And I was pretty intrigued. I know this may not look like a lot to all of you, but what I was trying to see is how hot this object was. And you can see by how bright it is in the center here. And you can see this object was definitely getting very, very hot, heated up from its close exposure to the sun. Many people say, oh, nothing like that could get that close to the sun. But you're wrong. Okay. This object is not a rocky planet like Earth. If Earth was to get this close to the sun on its approach, it would literally be torn apart and it would be completely destroyed. Okay. But these objects are not like Earth. These are the cores, the dead cores of stars, which means they are, I'll just use this terminology, they are used to that type of heat and they can survive in that type of heat that our sun would give off. And probably throughout their lifetime, maybe they've encountered other massive stars. So that's the answer to all of those questions. How can something like this get so close to the sun? The answer is because it's not a rocky planet. It's not a gas giant like, Neptune or Uranus. So let's take a look. Now, again, this is just a little bit of a difference in the gamma on this photograph. And you can see how much internal heat that this object is literally absorbing. And to me, once again, this is just tremendous evidence clearly showing that, yes, an object like this can get close to the sun. I've shown all of you throughout the years video footage from the SDO of objects literally passing through the sun's corona. And scientists say that the sun's corona is actually hotter than the sun's surface. I don't know how they come up with all of that, but this definitely shows you that as this object is approaching, the sun is heating it up. So I thought that was a pretty good photograph.
The problem with the temperature of the sun is not nearly as hot as they've been saying. They only see ionization in the sun's corona as being due to temperature, and that's the problem. It's not due to temperature, it's due to an electric potential. So it's not that hot. And the fact that the sun goes dark at times, including the SDO eclipse season, means that even the surface of the sun cannot be at 6,000 degrees Kelvin. It's at a much lower temperature, something like 750 Kelvin or below. Otherwise, it would never go dark. It would continue to glow because of heat. So the fact that it doesn't when it goes dark means the sun is much, much cooler than we've been told.
Dr. Albers, someone had a question in the live chat, and it was actually a pretty good question. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the Earth could survive with these sun simulators? Now, let me just jump in real quick. Folks, I've been researching chemtrails, oh my, since 2005. And, I've seen a big difference in the disbursement of these chemtrails and the way they stretch out across the sky. There's a big possibility that one of the main things that they are doing with these chemtrails is keeping the heat in, keeping our planet warm. But I don't really have any solid evidence on that. That is just a theory.
Well,
But
there is actually
the question that was proposed was, do you think the Earth would be able to survive solely on sun simulators warming the Earth?
Yes, of course it can. It has been doing so for quite a while. And the reason for that is that the simulators emit a lot of radiation. And people have this confusion about the fact that the radiation from the sun is heat. You have to differentiate two things. There's heat conduction when there's direct contact between a hot and a cold object. Then heat flows. That's not the way the sun warms up our planet. The way it warms up our planet is through emission of radiation. The Earth absorbs radiation from the sun, and its temperature increases as a result of radiation being absorbed. Now, the simulators do exactly the same thing. They emit radiation. They emit visible light and ultraviolet radiation. And that radiation will be absorbed by the surface of the Earth, and it will cause increase in temperatures. It works exactly the same way, except they don't have to emit nearly as much radiation because they are very close to the surface, whilst the sun is 93 million miles away. So, and the amount of radiation, the amount of the intensity decreases with the radius squared or the distance squared. So you need a lot less radiation from the simulators. The other thing is, as you mentioned, the chemtrails, which actually increase the greenhouse effect. And I've written an article on that because I found a patent that describes the process that you need metallic reflective particles in the atmosphere, and that increases the greenhouse effect. It doesn't decrease it. And the Earth emits its own radiation. The Earth emits infrared radiation. And it does so because it generates its own energy. That's one of the things I discovered, is that all objects, all celestial objects, generate energy in their core through radioactive decay, stars and planets. That's how the sun generates its own energy as well. The Earth generates its own energy. The stellar cores are pulling energy from the Earth, just like they've done with the sun. That's why they've drained the sun. And that means there's heat energy coming from the core of the Earth. And the more they drain it, the more energy comes out. So what happens is we have heat coming from the interior of the Earth that's flowing out through all the layers and heating up all the layers, especially the ocean. That's one of the reasons why the North Pole is melting at such a rate, because it's only ocean there, and the oceans have warmed up tremendously because of this. Not only that, we know that since the 1970s, all planets in the solar system have warmed up as a result of the Planet X system having invaded the solar system. And that's a time when the sun was already starting to be affected in many ways, and yet the planets were warming up. So it's happened everywhere. The effect is the same because all the planets work in the same way. So the simulators emit radiation. They emit visible light radiation. You need intense enough radiation for photosynthesis to be possible. That's why we still have agriculture. It's because of the simulators emitting that radiation. So yes, it definitely is possible, and it is happening, and the Earth is warming up. It's not cooling down.
You know, there was a very, very good statement made in the live chat by Heavenly Beast number 12, and it was in reference to the vitamin D deficiency. Scientists say that we receive a good portion of vitamin D from our sun. But over the course of the last several years, it has been constantly reported about vitamin D deficiencies.
Mhm.
Now, we've talked about this before. I have read many, many reports on this vitamin D deficiency. And now, why all of a sudden, over the course of the last couple of years, is the human species suffering from vitamin D deficiency? Dr. Albers, your thoughts?
Yes, I think what happens is the simulators are not emitting the same ultraviolet radiation that the sun was giving us. So they emitting a lot of UVC. We're getting a lot of UVC. We are getting a lot of UVB, and I think that our skin uses UVB, but it's probably not in the same ratios. Our bodies are designed to take a certain amount at a certain rate. And when that's not happening, and possibly the UVC, because it's actually damaging our skin cells, may even shut down the production of vitamin D. And that's probably why there's such widespread problems with deficiency. So I think it is a good idea to take a supplement.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, going back to 2016, I believe, is when I started taking a daily supplement of vitamin D and also some other supplements, trying to keep my immune system boosted. I use a Chinese herb called astragalus, and it's been used in Chinese medicine for a long, long time. Astragalus is now being used in cancer research, and it has the ability, scientific proof from the University of Berkeley, California, that once you have astragalus in your system, it does have the ability to kill precancerous cells upon development. And also, they're doing very, very good research, and they've shown how the uptake or the intake of astragalus can actually kill the AIDS virus upon contact. So, keeping your immune system boosted and keeping these vitamin supplements within your body, because of all of the things that are happening on this planet right now, folks. Your health is definitely a number one. Now, don't even get me started on the flu season and the vaccines, because, in my personal opinion, these vaccines are poison. And maybe sometime in the near future, we will touch base on that. But you see how many people died last year from these flu epidemics. I believe that they're man made. I mean, that's just my opinion, but that's a whole nother subject. There are still people that say they don't believe in this sun simulator, but Dr. Albers and I, we wrote a book on this sun simulator, and we have shown all of you concrete evidence, photographic, observational evidence that this object or these objects are actually up there. Okay. I mean, I had another one of our subscribers last year that he captured a photograph as he was watching a live stream from the International Space Station. And also Wayne Steiger has captured some fantastic footage, unexplainable when it comes to this ISS footage showing this, what is supposed to be the sun rising, but it's actually rising over the wrong part of the earth. And a very good dear friend and follower and subscriber, Gary Garcia, he photographed from the ISS a fantastic photograph that That right there, Gary's photographs that he sent me, and we peeled that piece of video apart. That proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a device up there. It may possibly be controlled by the International Space Station. The International Space Station may have something to do with it. I don't really know, but I'd be more than happy to, show you guys those quick photographs here real quick. Let me just jump out of this video and we'll move over here to the Planet X file. Let me just pan down here.
Yeah, Scott, I just want to mention that the real sun is perfectly circular when viewed from the Earth, and it's yellow. The sun that we are seeing in our skies is not perfectly round, and it's not yellow. It's white, hexagonal, sometimes has some crazy shape, but it's definitely not perfectly circular. So that's definitely not the real sun.
No, there's no doubt about it. Now this is one of the photographs that Gary captured, and guess what? Just when this came up, and this is no color change, folks. This was the actual photograph, and this was the actual color that was being viewed from the International Space Station. And what do? They cut the feed. They immediately cut the feed. And we have talked about this. And here, let me just show you. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this because I have some other photographs that are even better. Now, what in the hell is that? I mean, that is some kind of device. The circle, the sphere that you see, it's not even completely round or spherical. It's actually kind of stretched out. And we're always wondering why we get these hexagonal lens flares. Well, what do we have here? A very odd shape. It's not really a hexagon, but it's a very, very odd shape. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is the bottom of the Earth. That's the bottom of the Earth. And this object was photographed from the International Space Station. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up those photographs. Let me dig down in here a little bit and get to those. Because they're very damning. I mean, when it comes to the International Space Station and the Sun Simulator, they're very damaging. We've all seen this photograph here. This was captured by one of Mr. MBB333's viewers and followers. He captured this object in the sky, I believe in 2016 or 17 in South Dakota when this gentleman was on vacation, and he was taking a photograph of a big mountain monument. And later on, after viewing his photographs on his computer, he noticed that object in the sky, and it looks pretty damn similar to the to the simulator that we've all shown the patents on. But let me go ahead and cruise down here and get to those Sun Simulator photographs, because people get hung up on that. They think you're crazy. And here we go. Now, these were we tore these pictures apart, man. I mean, I went through everything to bring out the resolution in that photograph. And again, if you think that that is the real sun that was photographed from the International Space Station on a live feed, you must be a Looney Tune. I mean, you must really have rocks in your head, because that looks like a device. I mean, people, just let the photograph sink into your head. We're going to go ahead and move through these photographs. This was a better resolution that I got. And again, what is this odd shape in the back? Look at the rays coming out of this object. You can tell that this source of light and energy is being focused through whatever this is. Here's one of the original photographs. And again, this is the bottom of the Earth. This is the bottom. When does the sun rise from the bottom of the Earth? So again, for all of you that doubt that the sun simulator exists, answer that question. How can this well-lit object be under the Earth? Here's a better picture that I added some color, and I wanted to bring out this this object that's kind of like a hexagon shape in the background there. Here, I'll zoom into it. I mean, does that actually look like that would be your real sun? No, absolutely not. And I did this. I forget what type of a filter I used for this, but I wanted to bring out this light source right here. And what was amazing is there was some light shining from behind this sphere. And this may not even be a sphere, folks. This may be a flat disk, a reflector of some kind. We still don't have, excuse me, we still don't have all of the evidence on this sun simulator because there are probably multiple simulators up there, and I believe they've put some new technology up there. If you guys want to investigate something, go and Google solar sails. And when you Google solar sails, watch some videos. They will show you how they are able to put these devices into space and how they open up. And when they open up, boy, oh boy, they start to look like what you're seeing on your screen right now. Solar sails. So, if you guys want to do some investigative work and you think the sun simulator is nothing but BS, start doing your own investigation. I'm telling you where to look. So, if NASA's working on all of these solar sails and reflectors that are able to open up upon command, and they are absolutely massive, then just think about it. Remember, folks, don't keep your mind in that tiny little box. Start thinking outside of the box, because a lot of what we were taught throughout our years in school, well, there's a very, very high possibility that it was wrong. But there's the proof for me. Whenever Gary sent me these photographs and that video footage, man, it blew my mind. I studied the video footage and I studied the still photographs that I captured from the video for days and days. And then whenever we decided to put the information out there for all of you to see, wow, man, all the troll operations, boy, they just converged on my YouTube channel. Oh my God, like a bunch of little cockroaches saying that the sun simulator is fake. Well, what I see up in the sky looks fake. And what we're seeing on our screen right now, which was captured by the International Space Station, sure as hell looks fake. Doesn't look like the real sun. And since when does the real sun have this geometric shape within it? I mean, what is it? Where's your explanation now? Where's your educated comment now? Well, maybe after watching this video and doing a little research, maybe you'll be a believer. Maybe you won't. But that's on you. All I know is what I've researched and investigated. And you could go out there and debunk this all you want, but I want you to tell me what this object is. Don't just sit there and say, oh, the sun simulator is fake. and you're crazy and you don't know what you're talking about and you're fear mongering and you're scaring people. No, I'm not scaring people. I'm showing you what we have detected. Now, you tell me what that object is on your screen. Don't just sit there and spout off at the mouth and say that it's fake. Explain what it is. What do you think, Dr. Albers?
Well, I think the evidence is quite conclusive that the simulators are there. I mean, there's no way that the objects that we are seeing, there's no way that that object is the real sun. Of course, it looks like a simulator because it is a simulator. But I mean, we look at the sky every single day, and what do we see? We don't see our sun. We never see the real sun anymore. It's never yellow. When it's yellow, it's not round. When in the middle of the day, especially, we have this white sun that is very, very, very far from round, and it often looks hexagonal. How is that possible?
Well, we know how it's possible.
Because it's not the real sun. It's a simulator. What does simulator mean? It's a light source that simulates the sun. That's what it is.
I'm going to bring up the Planet X News website, and folks, if you don't follow the Planet X News website, make sure you do bookmark it and go back there to the website at least once a day, or you can click on the subscribe button and enter your email address, and every time I upload an article onto planetxnews.org, the article will be emailed to you, and you can read it and check it out. This was an article that I just put up, and this was in relation to the video that I did earlier, and showing the absolute proof that the Earth has shifted. And this is going back from 2015 to 2016, clearly showing approximately a 1,200-mile shift. Within this article, I've embedded the information pertaining to the NASA EPIC space satellite that took all of this footage over a period of a year. And it explains to you its position in the Lagrange point number 1. Here's the video right there. But Dr. Albers, what I wanted to show you, and I didn't have a chance to talk to you about it, but we're going to go over it right now. But folks, very, very interesting article that I wrote up today, and it's talking about all of these troops, military troops in the North Pole.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing up there? Read this article, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something that I've never heard about, and this story was just uncovered. And for all of the troll mongers out there that say, we never use peer-reviewed papers and Dr. Albers' reports are not peer-reviewed and blah, blah, blah. Well, this just happens to be uncovered evidence and a peer-reviewed abstract that was just released. And this is a very interesting article, folks, and you may want to go back and read this. A newly uncovered Carrington event on August 4th, 1972, that detonated dozens of sea mines off of the coast of North Vietnam. And this was an event that occurred right near the end of the Vietnam War. The U.S. Navy covered this up. The United States government covered this up. And if you're not familiar with the Carrington event of the late 1800s, I believe, 1859.
1859, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'll go over some of this with you. On August 4th, 1972, a coronal mass ejection occurred on the sun, and it was directed towards the Earth. During this event, dozens of sea mines off of the coast of Vietnam exploded. The United States Navy and government intelligence covered this event up, and it was never publicized. These events that we're referring to, they're referred to as Carrington events. And this is due to a massive solar storm that hit the Earth in 1859, and it caused a lot of damage on our planet. It caused a lot of damage to the newly developing infrastructure back in 1859. Dr. Albers, you want to touch a little bit on the Carrington event?
Yes, well, it seemed to be caused by a solar flares, strong solar flares. And what happens is when the energy hits the ionosphere, it induces currents on the surface, wherever there are wires. It induces these currents. Now, I have been writing how the stellar cores are actually the cause for all of this. So what usually happens is a CME hits, so the solar flare hits first, it's the radiation, and then comes the CME comes afterwards, but it's all caused by the stellar cores interacting with the sun and pulling plasma of the sun. And then often if they move towards the Earth, if it's Earth directed, then they will come towards Earth. And what we have then is stellar cores arriving at Earth orbit, and they're going to interact with the Earth's ionosphere. And then they are going to cause currents. They're going to induce currents. And of course, mines, if a current is induced in the mine itself, it's something metallic, of course, it can make it go off. That makes a lot of sense. So that's probably what happened. But that means that these objects are interacting with the Earth more and more. They are interacting with our ionosphere. They will be absorbing our atmosphere just like they've absorbed the sun's corona. So we'll be losing atmosphere and ocean to these objects, and they will be interacting and causing currents on the surface of the Earth. They can cause a large enough object can cause discharges between itself and our ionosphere and cause a type of kill shot event that destroys all our power grids.
Yeah, and our infrastructure, as far as our power grids go nowadays, is a hell of a lot more advanced than it was in 1859 and 1972. Within this article that I wrote, I give some background on the Carrington event, and you guys should look this up and maybe learn a little bit about this, because this can be very damaging to our planet. Sooner or later, this is going to happen. But the Carrington event, the storyline, it goes just like this. On the morning of September 1st, 1859, amateur astronomer Richard Carrington ascended into his private observatory, and he cracked open his dome, and he started to do his observations. He pointed his brass telescope towards the sun and began to sketch a cluster of enormous dark spots that freckled the surface of the sun. Suddenly, Carrington spotted what he described as two patches of intensely bright and white light erupting from one of these sunspots. 5 minutes later, the fireballs vanished, but within hours, their impact would be felt across the globe. That night, telegraph communications around the world began to fail. There were reports of sparks showering from telegraph machines, shocking operators and setting papers ablaze. All over the planet, colorful auroras illuminated the nighttime skies, glowing so brightly that birds began to chirp, and laborers or workers started to wake up thinking that it was daylight. and the sun was rising. Now, this is an absolutely incredible story, and I have attached the new abstract, peer reviewed for the troll babies. And this abstract was just newly released, and scientists stumbled onto this information from 1972. And it states that the extreme space weather events of early August 1972 had a significant impact on the US Navy. And it was not widely reported. And they basically buried this story, because what had happened is during this Carrington event in 1972, dozens of these mines that they laid out in the seas around or off the shore of Vietnam, they started to detonate, blow up, dozens of them. Okay, so this is not me making up a story. This is an actual event that occurred on November 4th, August 4th, 1972. This is exactly what happened during the original Carrington event in 1859. Ladies and gentlemen, if something like this occurs in today's modern times, we will be in the dark. Maybe that's what the Bible refers to of, days of darkness. Because if we are ever hit with one of these blasting CMEs or a kill shot, all of the electronics, even your cars, are not going to work. It will damage the power grid. And from what engineers state, it could take up to 10 years to repair these power grids. So this is a very, very serious situation. I wouldn't say, worry your little head about it every single day, but it could happen. There's always this talk about EMPs, okay, and the weaponry that these countries have, that they can explode a bomb over a nation or a country and produce this EMP pulse, wiping out a huge portion of a country's power grid. Now, look, all of you know how you feel when your lights go out. Just imagine everything going out. No telecommunications, no electricity. And with all of the electronics in your vehicles nowadays, that car is not going to start. Maybe if you have a Model T, maybe something from the 1930s, 40s, or 50s. I don't know. But it's definitely something to think about. This was a very, very intriguing article. And I'd like for all of you guys to help everybody else out by simply sharing the article. Click on the little share link, share it to Facebook, Twitter. You could even email the link to somebody and say, hey, check this out. This is a fantastic article. But folks, every single day, I put at least 5, 6, 7 articles a day, things that I feel that people should absolutely know about. And you have access to it right here. Another great article that I posted just yesterday. If you all remember that big earthquake that hit Mexico last year, seismologists are now stating that Mexico earthquake was so powerful that it literally cracked the tectonic plate in half. So again, very, very serious times that we are living in. And no, we're not sitting here fear-mongering. We're just simply showing you the facts of what is truly happening here on planet Earth and what is happening out there in the heavens above. I think it's pretty hardcore evidence. And again, there is a link in the description box underneath all of our videos. If you go right here, there's our Planet X online store. Here's our website, links to our books on Amazon, our Planet X News on Facebook, Dr. Albers' channel, our email address. All of our information, everything that you need to know is right here in the description box under each and every one of our videos. So, Dr. Albers, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Well, as usual, we know things are bad, and I always like to urge people to develop a relationship with the Creator, because that's where we're going to get the help that we need in times of real crisis. And our planet is more and more affected. We know that the crises are coming. In fact, they are at the door at the moment. Things are getting worse.
Yes, I could hear that knocking, boom, 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 each and every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Albers, I'd like to thank you for being on Planet X News with us and lending us your intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, things are getting very, very weird out there in the world. Once again, we're starting to see a lot of violence, a lot of hatred, a lot of weird things happening in politics. And I'm sure a lot of you, well, you just can't help but follow some of this politics within this country and many other countries. The situation that's happening with this caravan. And then, we have the MAGA bomber, which I'm looking into right now. And then just yesterday, we have an absolutely horrible situation that occurred right here in my own backyard in the city of Pittsburgh. We had a nutcase walk into a Jewish synagogue and murder 11 people, wounding 6, and 4 of those were police officers. There are some very, very touchy things that I've been looking into concerning this event in Squirrel Hill, right outside of the city of Pittsburgh. Squirrel Hill is an absolutely fantastic community. Some people call it a Jewish community, but in actuality, only 30% of the people that live there are of the Jewish religion. It's a beautiful place and beautiful people. They did not deserve what happened yesterday. But I uncovered some information because I was thinking, I saw something in the newspaper back in January of this year. Let me share it with you. Let me just bring this up. I did a video about this, and I uploaded it onto my public figure page. This is the Tribune Review newspaper, one of our local newspapers here. And this news article goes back to Wednesday, January 24th, 2018. Active shooter drill planned for Thursday night in Squirrel Hill, Darlington Road to close. Ladies and gentlemen, this was almost 8 months to the day that this tragedy occurred at the Jewish synagogue, the Tree of Life. I'm sure that all of you know and understand each and every time one of these so-called false flag events occur, they prepared for it many, many months before. Not only did they plan this active shooter drill at the Jewish Community Center in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh back in January of this year. The Department of Homeland Security visited this synagogue back in March of this year. Big questions. Oops. So the article actually goes on. Let me jump out of here real quick because I didn't copy the whole article. Just move over here because I saved it. This is the actual article. You know, I'm not saying in bad taste, I'm not saying that nobody died, because I do believe now that during these situations, I do believe that innocent people lose their lives, just like in the Las Vegas shooting. But if you read, this is the article, January 24th, 2018. Here's the quick article. Pittsburgh and Allegheny County Police, along with the FBI, will hold an active shooter drill Thursday night in Squirrel Hill. The drill will take place from 8 p.m. to midnight at the Jewish Community Center at 5738 Forbes Avenue. Darlington Road will be closed from St. Edmunds Way to Murray Avenue. Residents may notice a large police presence in the area. The exercise is closed to the public and the media. The exercise is to ensure the area is prepared and ready to respond in an active shooter situation. The exercise will include apprehending a shooter, evacuations, and treating victims at the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, this portion right here is exactly what happened yesterday. 11 people lost their lives. 6 individuals severely injured. 4 of them police officers. 2 of them in critical condition. But you know, folks, when you start seeing things like this again with these active shooters and the MAGA bomber, I've already been looking into that, and I'm telling you right now, things are not adding up. Things are not adding up. But if you want to check out the video that I did, it's on my public figure page on Facebook. Definitely check it out. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll get out of Planet X News. And we'll stop sharing. But folks, there you have it. That's some of the best evidence for Planet X observations that I've seen in some time. And I'd like to thank Justin for getting that footage over to me. Now, remember, he sent over quite a bit more than what we've already shown you. But I'm going to be going through the rest of that footage tomorrow and the next day. And probably by maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, Dr. Albers and I will have another live stream, and I will present all of that evidence to all of you at that time. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being with us this evening. And folks, make sure you are subscribed to Planet X News. You can follow me on my public figure page on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter. And all of that information it's all right there in the description box, right underneath our videos. And I'd like to thank Dr. Albers once again for taking the time to be with us and all of you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, be safe out there. Keep your eyes and your ears wide open. This is Scott from Planet X News. Thank you for watching.